this. Good evening, and welcome everyone. Welcome to another Sunday evening at the round table. I am Mike Nita, the host, and along with me I have brother Patrick McCarthy, who is a stable here, still participant. I have also Las Crawford, another consistent individual, and brother Herb Nelson, doing his magic, and he's very consistent individual, supporting what we're doing and what have you, the whole Waterhouse experience and journey. Brother Jonathan will be late, and I expect Sister Maxine to join us at some point. What we're going to do today is look back at the past year. I say personal because we're about to hit Tuesday, the 31st is when the year ends, and usually in Jamaica, or among us brethren, we sit and reflect, or we drink a beer, burn a chalice, or eat some food or something. But it's nothing new for us. We you come out at Kingston. We always at this time of the year we get together and right, my brethren, your man go and check another house and I cook some food. Some man come check you and we sit and talk about what going. I tell you, it's very instructive that when the year coming to an end, Sting concert, the Sting event, the annual Sting event was what? Postponed or cancelled. I'm not sure what happened. But the policeman Leng and his crew suffer a setback, a major setback with having to cancel this event. A lot of people were disappointed. Some people sad. However, in some quarters, a lot of people rejoice because of the whole Sting thing, the dancehall thing, and what it contributes to in terms of the arrogance and the violence which used to start manifest on stage. That started with Sting, one go up on stage and chat about gun and fire, threaten to shoot man and all that thing. That started with Sting. So I, for one, I'm glad that it was postponed. In fact, there shouldn't be no Sting. That's how I feel when I know the story about this Sting concert and Isaiah Lang and all of them guys there. But that was just one of many other incidents happening in 2024. We saw the return of Donald Trump. Well, he never leave the stage. But this time secure a victory that nobody can question. So that's a good thing. We also see the impact of social media on the Jamaican youths, eventually leading to the death of two TikTok influencer, and it leads us to ask ourselves, what is Jamaica coming to? I want to put the few ideas out there, and get a feedback from the brothers, talk about their experience, what are some of the notable things happen, and what lesson we can learn as Jamaicans at home and abroad. What lesson can we learn from all of this? So I'm going to open it up and invite any one of the brethren them to just make them contribution. Who want to volunteer? Who want to go first? All right, I can start calling him,
Well, I guess I can. What come to mind right away is that you leave out one important one,
which is
and it is the whole situation with the Integrity Commission report and the Prime Minister. A big news one, which and really, one that continues, right? Because of course we
Patrick, you're having some interference.
it continue
Patrick,
to be.
we're having
I
some
don't know how to
interference.
best describe it.
You're
Patrick,
breaking up, Patrick.
Yeah,
Patrick, we'll get some interference. You have a thing a playing in the background, fan or anything like that.
no, nothing, no, nothing at all.
All right, continue, bro.
Yeah. In terms of the Jamaican economy, that is one which is a even bigger subject to look at. In terms of, I think that probably would require a whole discussion to itself, for, which is one that we wouldn't be able to get into in any in-depth way today, but certainly one not to be neglected, because that is really what really gonna speak to the bread and butter issues. So, I'll just start there for now.
Last, Herb, what you take? What are some of the notable things in
Okay,
2024?
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Looking back um, on 2024, the first thing that was very hopeful that it started with has to be the constitutional amendment bill that they were considering, and the fact that the discussion was around how many meetings they were having. Where were these meetings? Were the meetings strategically conducted? And what did they hope to accomplish as far as input from the population? And it was very disappointing that we did not get sufficient input from our population in the various strategic areas. Another surprise was the reduction in major crimes. I think Dr. Kevin Blake took over from the former Commissioner of Police, Major General Anthony Anderson. And Blake is a IT specialist, which is pretty good because more and more of what we're seeing being utilized in the crime fighting happens to be AI and cybersecurity, right? And so now Dr. Blake reported that there's an 18% decrease in murders, a 10% decrease in shootings. And he's attributing this to intelligence-driven approach and increased police visibility. Of course, Commissioner Major General Anderson had claimed prior also that the crime was on its way down. And, it was surprising to many because we had some months there where they were killing 8 or 6, and all kinds of high numbers were being rolled out in these killings. So, it remains to be seen what the final count will be come 31 uh, December, which is in another 2 days. Now, you also they had the our Minister of Finance, who quit the job and surprisingly quit at a time when there are so many questions remaining about the status of the Prime Minister's returns and the fact that his interaction with the Prime Minister, especially with regards to SSL, is most impactful. And so we would have wanted to know. I wanted him to feel good now that he's gone, but that he has he took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, and that he may give us effective input from right here in Washington, where he is his new hometown. So he should feel free to speak up and to let us know um, what's going on with regards to illicit enrichment in Jamaica overall, not just prime ministers, because there are others, as well as the Jamaican economy and how stable it is with all of these people ripping off the country left, right, and center. Um, to me, the big thing is still police and how well JCF will be able to protect the people of Jamaica. Lots of arrests for lots of weapons transfers, and you know the shootings continue. A lot of shootings, a lot of killings of people under mysterious circumstances. We would love to see that reduced. It still continues in 2024. Um, of course, as uh, the speaker before me mentioned, the the fact is the DPP, who has the opportunity, has had the opportunity to prosecute the prime minister from the time that he failed to first report his income and his illicit enrichments, to the point that he has accumulated, along with his spouse, who is the Speaker of the House, a massive amount of wealth that there is unexplained income as far as we're concerned. Because going from being unable to pay your school fees around 2005 to um, transferring contracts, well over $33 million worth of contract, to your buddy of uh, over 20 years. Um, these things were never fully addressed at first by the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission has been a lot more dramatic in its reporting. And of course, we believe that the Parliament now has the name of all 8 people who are involved in the illicit enrichment. So we're hanging on to the end of the year with the hope that those 8 people will be named, and whether or not it includes Mrs. Holness as one of these people who illicitly enriched himself. So we're looking forward to the reporting for this year. And I'm sure so is our audience. Thanks.
I want to welcome Sister Maxine and John to this conversation. Last, give us your thing
Yeah.
on 24. That's some of the thing you'd highlight.
Well,
And I
for
don't know if you want to
me,
respond to what Patrick said and Herb said so far. But
yeah,
give us your take.
for me, 2024 started with Jamaica grappling with some of the same issues as before. The high crime rate, the poor healthcare system, and the high level of government corruption in the country. It also started with what Herb mentioned, the whole discussion around constitutional reform. At the beginning, people were hopeful that the constitutional reform process would have been conducted in a way that would reflect that the government and the opposition wanted to correct some of the major structural and legal framework in the country that is facilitating some of the issues that concern corruption, accountability, and participation of regular people in the direction of the country. And a lot of people were hopeful. It proved in the long run that the government was not really interested in a real constitutional reform process that would do much to change the status quo in the country as it relates to the power that politicians have, or giving any more power to the ordinary people. And so, in the end, the whole constitutional reform process, it just dwindled. Instead of gaining more public participation, it curtailed whatever participation people could have, and it was mainly confined to whatever input the opposition and the incumbent government had to say in the whole process. And that was a big disappointment in the year. In the end, not much came of it. I don't even know what's the status of the constitutional reform process at this time. On the issue of crime, we saw a continuation of the high crime rate in the country. And it reached a situation where the government and the police hierarchy, it seemed, was more concerned about their reputation rather than actually doing anything significant in crime fighting across the country. What we saw was a strategy by both the government and the police to highlight the fluctuations in the crime rate. We know that over the years, the crime rate has fluctuated. Sometimes it might be 1,600 murders a year. Sometimes it would go down to 1,100 murders. It swings right back up. It dips again. So the fluctuations is not important as far as I'm concerned. What I think is important is tackling the continued high crime rate. Because whether you take the fluctuations into consideration or not, the crime rate in Jamaica is significant. And that is what the government and the constabulary should be focusing on, rather than trying to tell Jamaican people that things are better. because this year we might have a 18% decline in murder rates, right? We have seen those declines and we have seen those increases in previous years. But overall, when you look at crime, crime is increasing in the country, right? And the government need to do much more to affect crime generally. When it comes to healthcare, we also saw the continuation of the decline in the health services right across Jamaica, to the point where the US government has had to issue health advisories, travel advisories to its citizens about coming to Jamaica. We've seen the situation with the Cornwall Regional Hospital, something that has been going for a number of years. The overspending and the inability of the government to say when or what is the final figure in the rehabilitation of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. We have also seen a situation where there is a continued brain drain in the health sector, where most of our doctors and most of our nurses are still traveling to greener pastures to try and survive. The same is happening in the education sector. When it comes to government corruption, we started the year with the Integrity Commission highlighting a number of politicians who were under investigations. And the fact that the Prime Minister was reluctant to provide his statutory declarations. Subsequent to that, we have seen where major questions have arisen as to the Prime Minister's finances and how it relates to his statutory declarations. We have ended the year not any more clear on all of that situation surrounding the Prime Minister. So overall, most of the issues, most of the difficulties that we started with in 2024, there were very few successes in coming to grips with those issues across the country.
Maxine, the here and with Isaiah Ling have to shut down the Sting thing. You're involved in the music industry. I am a fan, and I think that my view is that Sting should have shut down from the debate band, because it glorify and celebrate a certain part of the culture, that we want to move away from, this gang violence and gun violence and the cocaine culture and all of that. So what's your take on 24, the entertainment industry and all of that? Because I know a lot of things happening in that area. So you want to share what are some of the observations you have for 24 with us?
Right. Well, obviously I don't agree with you in relation to the the dancehall genre and the
The genre are okay. Go
no,
ahead.
in terms of what King represents and the portrayal of the violent lyrics which it's part and parcel of the music industry. When I say I don't agree, I know to the extent at what the industry does and what the people or the
Hold on,
artists.
Maxime. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Something is,
Something you hear in the background. Something.
yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
mute?
yeah.
Please?
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah. Can you all mute? Well, when someone's talk, we just mute and
Maybe it's
okay.
your. Okay.
John, I can mute all of you guys. Mute. Last you mute. All right, continue, Maxi.
Right. Yes. Certainly,
Yeah, it's great.
for the last 40 to 50 years, the dancehall genre has remained very commercially viable and influential globally. Um, you see artists and genres all over the world developing their creative success based on dancehall. And so I'm saying that to say that whatever are the topical issues that relates to some of what Lass was talking about, the violence in the society and the rise of it and all of that, um, that seems to be some uh, social economic issues plaguing most countries, not just Jamaica. And the urbanization of um, countries like Jamaica that brings in millions of people from the rural way of life to occupy cities by the millions living on top of each other and in some very harsh conditions. The outcome is what you see come out in the art and the culture. So I'm not being apologetic about it, but I'm just framing that dancehall is a global success story as a genre and is influencing um, music all over the world. And people are, especially in the urban cities of Africa, Latin
The Black
America,
Black Atlantic. The Black Atlantic.
the Black Atlantic, and the Black Africa,
Yeah.
you know, they are expressing themselves, especially the young people who are themselves going through what you call it now, not just a urbanized, but a further alienation um, with the digital world, in terms of how they socialize and so on and so forth. That is creating a lot of psychological problems. Even some countries like Australia now banning um, these social media platforms for their, younger populations. So in terms of that, it does reflect the violence growth in the Jamaican society, and especially the young personalities that have come up, the young artists then, or the young dancehall, because even within dancehall you have the criticism of the older generation dancehall with what is new and what they even call now trap dancehall, as it has been heavily influenced by the trap hip hop genre that has, taken over and dominated American music for a while, coming out of Atlanta, that glorified the streets, glorified the drug trade, and, full of all of this crime and violence narratives that we see, um, you know, raising its head in Jamaica. So, to the extent that so many of our dancehall artists are doing very good abroad, they are being signed by record companies, Killy Bang, you know, Kraft, Shensia, whoever, all of these artists are being signed and they're touring well. And then to see uh, Vibes Cartel come and dominate the space with his release from prison. That I guess he was uh, a successful artist in the dancehall prior to his release, um, prior to his imprisonment, and some phenomenon close to Bujo phenomenon that we experienced before, where their prison sentence it is almost it made them heroes. I don't know what the psychological reasoning is behind that. I know that it exists and it is in full flow, Um, so the question about Sting demise is relative to Vibes Cartel's concert being promoted within the week of Sting, and it necessarily, if Sting wasn't incorporated in the promotion of the Vibes Cartel concert, then this would logically have happened to Sting, because the Vibes Cartel concert and the demand or the projection and the promotional dollars that were being put in by the promoter Bogdanovich would have affected Sting as it did, you know. So it was expected, kinda, even though a fight was being put up that both concerts could occur. But as far as I saw, unless they were co-promoted, meaning like, like how you have Dream Weekend, or a week of festivals that run a week in Negril or so, they could have used the Sting concert as a marketing platform for a week of dancehall activities. So when I saw that didn't happen, I know that Sting wouldn't occur. I did see that the Minister of Culture came out in support of um, Sting when he announced the postponement of the show, and put forward that she had provided them with the venue and certain inputs to allow Sting to occur, and they are holding on, because I'm not clear that Vibes Cartel's show is going to be an annual event. I don't know, if he's going to hold the date going forward. But, for me, the genre is ending the year on a high note commercially, with what is about to happen with the concert, and also with potentially his album. He was already nominated for a Grammy. He's about to put out an album with collaborations with the who is who of the hip hop world. So again, I think the genre as a influencer and as a economic, um, returns is rather healthy. So it's interesting to observe going forward, but that's what I would have to report, that the things are well for the dancehall artists and genre, despite the negativity um, of their lyrics and how it converges with the issues within the country related to how crime and violence emerges and how it is handled.
John, what's your take? What's your take on 2024? What were some of the highlights for you, personally, nationally, and internationally? John, you're
John
mute.
muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. You locked me off, Mr. Moderator. So I thought you would turn me on back. Let me first of all wish everybody belated happy Christmas or Merry Christmas and a happy New Year. Like me, I'm sure that we all wish that in 2005 we are better off than we were in
2025.
25. Yeah, that we are better off than we ended 2024. That is certainly my case. And so for me, what were the most I don't want to say highlights, but disappointments. It's easier to think of the disappointments of this year. If you want me to add the highlights, I can. But this was a rough year generally, to my mind, for let's call it the world's global progressive movements. Progressive in Jamaica, progressive worldwide. When I think of Jamaica in particular, since I thought that's what we were going to focus on, the two areas that stand out to me when I think of what Jamaica is and what people know of Jamaica and identify the things that make Jamaica a global brand, since we have spoken about that concept. The things that degrade the brand. One is the dismal performance in the Olympics. It comes to mind in sports. We did not do as well this year. In some cases, I would say even the public who are close to sports were surprised. I was certainly surprised with the women's performance. It's not clear. There's no statement or, public announcement to say this is what happened and so on. It seemed to be just very silent announcement. I could be wrong. I've not been following as closely as I should. But that's what I call a dismal performance in the Olympics, especially in track. However, we did, on the positive side, have newcomers, both in the track. I forget the gentleman's name who ran the 100 meters, who was like a photo finish. What's his name again? But I don't recall his name, but everybody, I think, was surprised at that track. And the other good performance was a young lady who recently broke the world record in swimming, which is not an area that we have had any great display before. It's evident that in the next Olympics we will have certainly a bigger role and a big more eyes will be on the swimming pool for Jamaica. The other thing that was very disappointing to me is that the crime seemed to be out of hand. I'm sorry I missed Herb's comments, which I know is usually informed by data, but I am talking about murders per 100,000. That's the crime that I consider the most important crime. And we are up there. We are in the top 5 or top 10 at best, the top 10. At worst, we're in the top 5 outside of countries that are at war. And this reminds me a little bit about the time of the 70s with Manley and the intervention to get rid of him. Because that period, crime isn't what it is now, but it was sort of a new outbreak, a bigger, more brutal, more horrendous, more bodies on the street among the youth and among a lot of other sectors of the population. And that seems to be what's happening today. The murder of the lady there, the crime reporters, a retired lady by herself, living by herself in her home, is reminiscent of extreme brutal crime. I don't know what other word to use. So that to me is another very big disappointment. I don't know what the positives are with crime because I didn't really listen to what numbers Herbie, and I really didn't have the time to research. The other negative thing for me in Jamaica's brand worldwide and certainly in the Caribbean is the corruption, where it can be brought to the table of the head of government. Not only he being singled out, but the nature of the scope and nature of the corruption is unprecedented. We cannot think of any prime minister recently, since I'm alive, and that's not so recent, where corruption of that level has been constantly brought up. It's been in the newspapers, whether it's, where we fall in the integrity or in the corruption scale, we're falling nearer the bottom than at the top. And that's very, very serious. So those are the 3 things. I don't really agree with the comment about the music. I agree. I'm closer to Maxine. I've never been to Sting, but my daughter does every year, or used to go every year until recently. And she would always tell me about it. And it's one of the biggest dancehall events in Jamaica, surpassing dancehall night in the Montego Bay festival, which I used to go to every year. I used to go to all nights in Montego Bay, but I'd never been to Sting. Admittedly, a little fear of the bottles, but Sting always brought out the top dancehall artists, and they're doing well. I don't think there is any doubt about that. They're still getting whether they get Grammy or not is not the thing to me. I think the more important thing is how we continue to influence the world, from hip hop artists in Australia right through the United States, in England, and so on. The centers, the music is out there, um, and even across language, with the Spanish reggaeton and so on and so forth, embracing the dancehall music. So I don't have that or that feeling. Well, let me say this: not everything about dancehall is to be glorified in terms of what they sing about, because I've always felt, just like with the hip hop, um, the way that they glorify or negative towards the woman, in some instances towards crime and gun, are things to be questioned. But for the most part, I've seen an advancement in that area, and particularly in terms of how we have been able to partner with, how the other artists in other parts of the world who are out there embrace and work with our artists. On the world scale, since you mentioned it and you asked me to comment, the most disappointing thing to me is, of course, the continued war in Gaza and in the Middle East. It cannot be any doubt, even a blind man can see that this is not about defense of Israel. It is about genocide, ethnic cleansing. Up to yesterday, Israeli forces attack a hospital, and the same story that they give since the beginning of the war is that Hamas is hiding, it's a HQ for Hamas, that they use the people as human shield. This is just outrageous now, because after a year, nearly 2 years of war, it's the same story. I was watching a very good podcast by an Israeli human rights, I'm sorry, a Palestinian human rights lawyer living and working in the United States, who explained the psychology of their media propaganda campaign, how they match certain language to first to make unreal, by use of, for example, the way they use the word terrorism, terrorists. Anybody who is a terrorist is not human. These are people to be slaughtered, and then give excuses when they attack schools, cultural centers, mosques, hospitals. Not just attack them, but international doctors who are in the Middle East. Now Israel is attacking other countries, Syria, Yemen. It's really a matter of time before we hear about some kind of attack on Iran. So they are hotting up the Middle East, and the aim of it is obvious: internationally, to justify a third war or a bigger war, and locally to justify a greater Israel, to take more land from the Palestinian people. So it's a rough time in that regard. On the positive, the other negative is the absolute crashing of all the numbers in relation to global warming. I mean, we're going to hit that 1.5 degrees, you know, maybe next year, or we're about to hit it in certain countries. So it's not a good sign when a man like Trump is coming to power rather than leaving power. All of those indicators are going to get worse under Trump. And the signs are there for those who voted for him, the diaspora people. I know a few of them who tell me to, you know, after election, they said to me to watch and see what's going to happen. So the man tell you what him going to do. He is beginning to set up his team in order to do it. I don't know that there's much else, and we can debate about the extent of those measures. One thing is certain: the United States does not anymore command the moral high ground in the world. It's like when the word freedom, when the word democracy is used in these platforms now, it raises the big question: who are you to talk about these values when you are not yourself defending them? So the moral ground is going to be superseded by others. There's no guarantee that liberal democracy can retain the moral ground over the next 3 years. It's very hard to see that happening. It's like worse than what was happening during apartheid. So those are the things that come to my mind in terms of positives and negatives. Well, one big positive, if I might, Mikey, last one, is the rise of the global south, or the BRICS. I think that there is there is very much, it will be a difficult road for these countries, because the US is very far ahead in some key areas, especially militarily. Is very much ahead, almost more ahead, spending more than all the top 15 countries in the world on military budget. The equipment, the technology, the Navy, the Air Force is unsurpassed by all these other countries in the world. The only thing that these countries can stand up to them is the size of the army. We no longer use army. We use what those little things them call now drone. We don't use army anymore. You know, if you watch those documentaries in Gaza, they're showing the women and the children, tell you that the drone is actually announcing that they must come out into the road. It's safe to come out. And when they step out to go on the street, to move from one area that's being bombarded to another, snipers take aim at them and shoot them in the head. Children. And there's no human, the only way, that is a human being firing the gun. But that man is thousands of meters away with a sniper telescope. So
Right.
it's a rough time. And I would end on that note because I've rambled on long enough.
Okay. I want to respond to some of the things said so far. First, let me ask this. Maxine, are you familiar with the name Mikey Savage, Mikey Tomlinson?
Yeah, Shabon or Mike.
Yes, Mikey Tomlinson, he's a promoter.
He was the one who first introduced dancehall events on stage. He used
Right.
to he used to do a inner city promotion at Harborview Drive-In, then he moved it into New Kingston. You
Cinema too,
familiar
yes.
with that? Cinema
Yes,
too.
yes.
You know that when we talk about dancehall, we also have to talk about the corruption. The corruption not only just a politician, but we teach dancehall itself. There is corruption, and I say that why? Mikey Thompson had a show at Cinema too, right? And a couple of days later, he was detained by certain police officers, taken to the Constant Spring police station, where the prisoners were informed that he's a Batman. And when word got out and people respond to him to help him get liberation, his face was fractured after he spent a night inside. The police officer, certain policemen, round him up and carry him go Constant Spring Station. He had to vacate Jamaica, and then thereafter, Sting. I am saying that dancehall is true. It's true dancehall make positive growth and what have you. But I don't think it's the linking up with overseas musician and what have you. I don't think it's something new. That's happening in dancehall because from the early on, bridging from
What's the point you're making, though, Mikey? I'm trying to understand what you.
the point I'm saying is that in terms of dancehall, when we speak of dancehall, we should also speak to the underbelly of dancehall. There is an underbelly and it's been there for a long time. You understand me? The second point I'm making is that the mingling, the reach a dancehall linking up with people from Africa and the Burna Boy and all of that stuff. This is nothing new when it comes to Jamaican music culture. We have always intermingled with people from different parts of the earth. In the early 60s, before we get to reggae, you had brethren from Trinidad used to come at Jamaica and work with Jamaican musicians. Rasco God is an African American who used to be at Jamaica. So there was always that intermingling that give rise to a certain music.
Not at the same scale, though, Mikey. You're talking
Not
about
as
you're talking about two different scale of things. I mean,
no,
of course, there was
no,
always participation from other West Indians in the Jamaican music,
You used to
and
have some
Americans
Japanese
and
dancehall
British
queen.
people
You used
in
to have
Jamaican
Japanese
music.
dancehall
The
queen.
scale, the
Yes,
scale
but
of
what I'm saying,
what he's trying to say, as with popular music all over the world, it comes from the quote unquote mafia. If you overstand the rise of dance halls from the jazz era um, in America, in the UK, it was linked to the liquor industry, coming also out of prohibition and owned by the mafia,
I'm
right?
glad you say it.
And,
I'm glad you
and
say
I
it.
can say similarly in Jamaica, the music industry is subject to the
Definitely.
street economy, right? So even myself have had many run-ins and experiences um, in relation to those economies,
Of course.
and the story in relation to the police um, and the music is a very interesting story to track. You
Very,
know,
very, very, very
very
interesting
interesting.
story.
with the politics and the, the role that the sound system played in the inner city communities as they became garrisons, and the different power structures, that apply. So that definitely is, it's not simply part and parcel of the music. It's again part and
of the
parcel
society.
of the society, how it was organized, and to the extent that the music reflects that. And it's only the other day, I mean, the mafia still controls, the music industry, only that it is more
Control the
cleaned up.
venues.
It's more cleaned up, and it's more official business, in terms of, because that is what happens in issues like even the ganja industry being illegal, and then they say, okay, now it's legal. Then, something occurs where, the early players clean up themselves, to fit the new laws. But trust me, they are very much in charge. So, there are those stories, or not stories like makeup stories, but yeah, the story of Jamaican music is very much a story of the streets, not just the lyrics, but the business development related to it. And it's just like hip hop music. Music of the streets is it was used to launder the ganja money, and it was, the ganja, not even used to launder the ganja money, but the ganja money is what supported, developed, and
The music.
internationalized the music
The
industry.
music. Yep.
You know what I mean? So our informal quote unquote economy story. So to the extent that we are resilient, and that, the hope is that we would move to a level of development that would, create a buffer zone between the past and the future based on the success. That has not really transferred a lot into Jamaica. It has happened in the diaspora, the Jamaica diaspora, 'cause that is what we have to understand. That as we discuss Jamaica and the music, we have to discuss that there are more
The
Jamaicans now
diaspora.
that live outside, that actually do support the music industry. Even if, like a person like me, I have children that are Americans, born in America, everything, but they live like Jamaicans. They want the they buy Jamaican, etc. So the diaspora population is actually larger than the Jamaican population, and the diaspora Jamaican music industry is larger than the local Jamaican music industry. So yeah, but like I said, to the point of the type of business that's behind the industry, I think even actually it's the brands that have come in, like the Digicells and the liquor brands, etc., that probably has cleaned up a little bit, some of that, you know, brought in a little bit of a different type of money and a different type of business relationship in the development of the local industry. But it's there.
Another point I want to make, you see, is yes, it's true that there is a reduction in crime, violent crime that's what the police is reporting. But to me, it would seem that the police killing has increased, gone up in 2024. I don't know who's tracking it, but the number, two kill here, three kill there, and whatever, it would seem to me that police killing has increased in 2024. And one would understand that because both the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security is like them give the police license for just run up on anyone and kill them. Once an allegation is made that somebody is involved in some certain events. You heard what happened in Montego Bay this week, or was it last week? They went in and killed 3 youths because they are suspect of killing another TikTok
Oh
influencer or
yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
And you see these events, but I'm not sure who is tracking that. Another thing that is happening, the police have camera to wear, and them refuse to wear the body camera. You
The
understand?
thing, Mikey, the thing, what John raised about the international situation and the calling people terrorists and create a mindset in the society that once you're a terrorist, it's
We got to
okay to
shoot
get rid
you.
of you.
No, the
It's the
Jing Bang.
same,
No, but it's
The
Jing
Jing
Bang. You have to
Bang.
use the
yeah.
prime minister
So,
word.
so I'm
Jing Bang.
saying to you, that's what I'm saying to you. It's the same thing that is happening in Jamaica, where the prime minister, the minister of national security, and the police, they are creating a mindset because they haven't got the answers and they don't have the strategies to effectively combat crime. They are creating a mindset in the society
So
that
let me ask you
once
this. Let me ask you this.
once they say that you're a gang member, right?
But who will
Or
protect
you're
this?
some scammer, this mindset is that it's okay if you're killed by the police.
But who will protect the citizen from the police, lass?
Huh?
Who will protect? Who will protect the Jamaican people from against the police? Who will do that?
No, once they're not concerned about that, once they create that mindset, they can go in, kill people, and then the perception is that they are doing something about crime. It is because they are serious about crime that they are killing these people. That's the mindset that they want to create in the society. Not that they are effectively fighting crime, but at least they're doing something.
Or
What we call it is this, last. It's just like here in the US. First, you demonize a person.
That's what we
Yes.
just said.
You demonize their programs, their policies. You demonize everything that they've done. You you kind of press and turn on the hate button, and so it makes it easier to take them out. We saw it with Saddam Hussein, and then we saw the amount of lies that were involved, and we saw where it was actually
And there was no what you call it weapons.
weapons
You know
of
what I
mass
mean?
destruction. Yeah,
Shit.
and we saw where it was Rumsfeld who actually went to Saddam and sold him the so-called weapons of mass destruction. So all the U.S. wanted to do was go in and make sure that they cleaned up their own mess, right? Case in point, right now, something I'm involved with. The young man, the DC sniper, young man, Malvo,
Yeah.
he has been demonized.
The guy that shoot from the car trunk.
Yes, but in fact, when you examine what was happening, the FBI had the opportunity after they spoke with the guy who they were staying at the halfway house in Washington State, right? He had called them and reported that these guys were either smugglers or drug traffickers because they were just leaving the halfway house, flying out of the country and flying back in, right? And surprisingly, when he didn't get a response from the FBI, he called the um, the sheriff, deputy for that Tacoma or whatever that county was, and he reported Malvo's truancy. In other words, he was supposed to be in school and he was not in school. And what happened? the sheriff came there to investigate and to make an arrest of the the adult, which is Mohammed, and the FBI ran interference, prevented him from doing his job. Now,
So,
what does it tell you about the activities of one Muhammad and why they allowed Muhammad to keep possession of a young man that was not his relative, right? What does that tell you? I want you guys to think real hard. You know, you cannot run around and think back. No, this was like 2000 and 2000 and the year 2000, all the way up until after the 9/11 attack. And then you had the shootings were amplified after the 9/11 attack, right?
so in Jamaica, in Jamaica, what's
No, no,
happening with
no.
that?
He had gotten the
Because
kid and his mother
no,
from
but
Jamaica,
yeah,
brought them
but
up
I'm
to Antigua.
no, that's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking in Jamaica, what you have to say about Jamaica? Police killing increase or decrease? Because they are
The-
touting that crime's gone down, but from
the-
observation and the news, it seems to me that police killing has increased in 2024 under this
well,
government.
I would not say the police killing has increased. What has happened is the police killing has been wanton and reckless. In other words, when you see on video when the raid was in Spanish Town, you see at two different occasions, police officer put somebody to kneel down and you hear a gunshot. And they have the person already have the person in custody. Or they have the person in custody and they get shot. We saw the same wanton recklessness around the time of Tivoli Gardens incident. People in custody and they shoot into the pen where the people were sitting or standing, just killing them wantonly. So again, because you have demonized the neighborhood, it's easier for you to do the killing. Much simpler for you to do the killing. Because what people are going to say, oh, good riddance, without knowing the full story.
And a lot of the youth is being subject to that, you know.
Yes.
A lot of youth, that's what the police them
And
come in and them just
It's not just youth,
demonize and kill off.
Mikey. Mikey, it's not just
But
youth. It's
uh,
the,
adult.
all of these ghetto communities are demonized. They are already branded. That is why the police have license to go into any one of them and commit slaughter. That is a standard thing in Jamaica from I was a youth. So I don't think it's nowadays it get worse. It get worse.
and
It's a
with
lot. The areas that the police are doing it are
Yeah.
The,
a lot of areas that have high crime rates,
the,
gang members, and when they take out a person and they affiliate them with the gang, which you and I not seen anything in black and white that affiliates that person to the gang. You and I don't
so
see a record that the person has a record, but they just say, "Oh, they went in on this raid. This person was ordered to drop a knife. They didn't drop the knife, and so they had to shoot." So that, and then what does the upper class and middle class, whatever class in Jamaica is saying? Oh, bad boy, them man, them need to get rid of them.
They're
And that's
not in Herb. That is stop saying that long time. It's just normalized.
yeah,
That's normalized in Jamaica.
accepted behavior. Yeah.
Accepted behavior. So get real. We need to get real. That is absolutely the case. Is the most gross normalized behavior.
Well,
But
as
can
you can,
I think one of the things we have not touched on, though, is the political parties, how they began the year, how they ended the year, and the outlook coming towards the next election. Because I am personally surprised at,
the PNP.
no, I'm surprised. Well, I'm surprised at the PNP, but I'm more surprised at how well the GLP has been able to hold on throughout 2024. I mean, 2024 has been a year of scandals where the PNP has ridden so much of the scandals about the GLP, and still Onus and the party, even though the polls are showing that Mark Goring and the PNP has made significant strides. The continued popularity of the party and the continued popularity of the GLP, in riding out all of these scandals to this point, it's amazing.
popularity of the
Here's a
GLP?
couple of things. Here's a couple of things that's not being mentioned though. One, first, looking at the statistics of the war crime situation, and this has been a practice for quite some time, and in fact, it is something that has been raised on some certain discussions too as well on the media, and that is that they really skew the report of the statistics based on what they want you to know, right? And to give a certain appearance, such as the way it may be stated in terms of the numbers and killings and so on, and not taking into account police killings in the whole overall group of killings. Not seeing it as criminal then, because killing by police is just in many instances is just as criminal as one person killing another.
Most of the
Right?
police
And
killing.
whereas
Most of
it
the police killing.
reported, it is not reported as such, or it is not reported at all. Right? So the numbers really don't give a clear and true picture of what's taking
Amnesty,
place.
all up in last, Patrick. Amnesty International is predicting that police killings will reach 200 by the end of this year. That's what Amnesty International is predicting. That police killing in Jamaica will reach 200 by the end of this year. Who will protect the Jamaican people from
we don't know.
Go ahead, we don't know.
The image being portrayed, Mikey, in answering that question, is that the police, by demonizing these people and killing them, is protecting the Jamaican people from the criminal elements of the country. So that is their way of saying that they're protecting the Jamaican people. Because if you have a monster and you're saving the people from the monster,
Yeah, but my question to you and to the panel is, who will protect the people from the police?
Ombudsman. That is what them have set up. Ombudsman. And what's the other one name? The council.
Indica.
No, they have a body, man. Like a group of volunteers, right name?
Jamaica for Justice.
Jamaica for Justice.
But John, you need to understand that Remember, when Indicom was just initiated, there was a fall in police killings for a period of time. There was a fall in police killings. Remember the uproar that took place amongst the GLP politicians and their supporters, some of their supporters, in trying to dismantle Indicom.
What
They
is
did not
Indicom?
get to
What is
totally.
Indicom?
That
They
was
were not,
last. That
yes,
was that Indicom was utilizing arrest procedures,
yes.
right? And what did they do last about those arrest procedures?
They repeat. I think they repealed their
The shores had repealed it. They took it away
yes.
from Indicom.
And then since that time, since they were able to weaken Indicom, right? We
Yeah.
have seen the rise again and the actual support, direct support from government politicians, even the Minister of National Security and the Prime Minister, right? Giving signaling to the police, right? That they can go ahead and get rid of people.
Well, if you recall, when this current police commissioner got sworn in, some of the first words out of his mouth was he wants his police to go ahead and do what they have to do, and he'll back them.
Yep.
He said it. And when he said it, I would comment on it and say, hey, to me, that is a signal that you go ahead, the lawlessness can continue, but we're going to back you here at headquarters. And nobody ever asked him to explain it. Everybody listened to him say it at that press conference, but never asked him to elaborate what the hell did he mean. You know?
The difficulty we face, though, is that because the crime rate is so high and people, everybody wants some kind of solution,
Correction, the murder rate is high.
the murder rate,
Yeah,
and people want some kind of solution,
yeah.
right? The country is kind of set up. The ordinary Jamaican people is kind of set up to accept, right, this kind of behavior from the police in the with the feeling that yes, they're doing something about the high murder rate, right? It's like they're accepting the demonization to mean that the police are getting rid of these people who are the criminals and not looking at the human rights perspective of the thing and saying that when you set up the police like this to conduct these kind of operations, you can't account for who is innocent and who is really guilty
Right.
because they're using the same justification against everybody. And the society is prepared to accept it. So even us here talking against it, you will have a lot of Jamaicans who will be ready to say
But
that
here's the thing though. The fact of the fact the fact of the matter is last. Right? The fact of the matter is, and going back to Michael's question, about who is really responsible, right? Is that the structure of our society, right? Or the laws of the land, because that is basically what it comes down to. It is so structured that law and order is responsible. It's the responsibility of the government, right? The accountability has to come from government. There's not a place for it to come from, right? Because that is where the whole organizational structure lies, right? And this is where when we lend our voices, we speak to the ones, right, who are authorized to carry out these responsibilities, right? And this is where everybody, right, has to lend their voice to the correction of the situation, right? We can't allow things to go unnoticed or allow things to continue without speaking out, right? Without taking action, right? Because that is how society is structured, right? That is our whole purpose of being here. That is our whole purpose of having these discussions and speaking to the those who are who hold the reins, because that's the only way it can work. What happens is that for many years we have, and when you deviate from that, this is where corruption rears its head, right? Because when you have corruption within the police force, right, who is to correct it? Whose responsibility is it to correct it? The government responsibility, right? They make the appointments. They are the ones overseeing the operations of these bodies, right? They are the ones who have to be held accountable. And this is what must be clearly understood, right? We're not talking for the sake of talking, right? We're speaking
I,
out of
I,
our own personal responsibility to the issue.
I would,
Maxine, before you jump in, let me say two things. One thing here. In all fairness, there is a body called the Independent Investigation Body, Independent Commission of Investigation. I think that is one thing, one area that the Jamaican people need to strengthen. The police are not in support of it. They don't like where they are around, but the Jamaican people need to push for this body to be given the resource to do its work. Also, I think in terms of camera, body camera, we need to take a stand and insist that the police use the body cam. 400 were distributed in September, between September and October. But the police them refuse to wear the body cam. And I guess it's because they know that when them out there, them probably have to go use up them tool, and them don't want amongst them I use them tool illegally. So that's why it's like this blanket thing. None of the police them don't want to wear the camera. You
Yeah,
know.
but it's the
So
same. Like it's just a degree different from here, Mikey.
degree
It
from here.
no, in the U.S. it's not all police wear the cam. It's just that there's more force, there's more effort in terms of legislation and accountability for police behavior. We have no
Okay.
formalized system of police accountability in Jamaica. This thing about this is a point about people power. So long as the people are just going through ombudsman or DCAM, INDICOM or whatever that don't have no authority, they can't enforce it. There's something like community policing is where those things would actually get enforced. But so long as
Oh,
these are inactive and dormant,
yeah.
police have a license to do what they please.
And
Okay.
that's why there's a term for that. There's a term for that. That lack of accountability is what we call corruption, right? Because corrupt practices, that's what it comes down to.
But when you have a prime minister telling youths that they must should turn themselves in or they go and meet their maker, that sort of create a mindset. Because that's what the prime minister said to the police, The youth they
That's
must
an
come in.
irresponsible. That's an irresponsible
You,
approach.
you know that he said that, right?
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
read
Yes,
it
but
it
before.
was,
I've
what
read it
is new
before.
about
it was
that?
publicized.
What is
Yeah.
new about that? Is only that it broadcasts in the private meetings. and on the veranda when them sit down and talk about how to run the country. It's just that you don't hear. So
That's true.
that is a standard. That practice is a standard practice. When I used to teach in the ghetto school, we used to see every day, every week, police raid, police with soldier. What you used to call that again? When the two of them join up and then make a raid and them have the jeep them and the truck back and them load up over people, carry them away, interrogate them, beat them, do whatever and bring them back a couple of days later. A standard procedure that. That's
Maxine,
how
you wanted to say
It is
something.
it is
Yeah,
it is it is
I'm
it is way more
curious.
it is way more comprehensive than that though, It is way more comprehensive than that though, because when that happens, then it also means that in terms of um the legal process, right? That the legal process is undermined, right? It means that people don't get them day in court, right? It means that when it comes to incarceration, right, you have improper incarceration taking place as well. This is
Well,
this is it,
Patrick,
it,
you
it is
come
something
from
it is something
Jamaica.
more
Yes.
comprehensive
Oh,
than
oh,
just
hold on, hold on,
Maxine
hold
has
on.
been wanting to say something for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Sorry.
Maxine. Yeah, Maxine.
Yeah, I was curious about the homicide rate overall in Jamaica, and how it relates to the police killings, meaning their homicides,
Yeah,
because most of the focus on murder rate in Jamaica is the people murdering them one another,
yeah.
and the people murdering them one another within specific communities. And like I was in a scenario where they said domestic disputes, how people are treating their internal disputes through murder is a major factor of reflecting on homicide rate in Jamaica. How did, because it's not simply criminal. It is not all criminal. The the overall homicide, I mean, we're coming down to what the police are doing with their contribution to the homicide picture. But what I'm trying to make the linkage is where the people are killing one another and where the police are part of this um you know
Murder scheme, murder scheme.
yeah so when we're because I guess the police are part of the fabric, right? And for me, I understand that the police in Jamaica, the history of the police in Jamaica, there's a certain history about the JCF, what their role was in the Jamaican society. And
Brutality.
it was to control a percentage of the population that will never be employed, that will forever be a problem because they're gonna
Where you reading that from, Maxine? I need that quote.
no, but Maxine, I think there's something you're misunderstanding here, right? There's something you're misunderstanding, and there's a
Can,
point I
can you
made
can you
earlier.
can you allow her to finish? Make she finish what you're saying, and then we respond. Go continue, Maxine.
yeah, because I'm in these communities with the music, right? And I see how the communities deal with one another in the community and the dispute. I was in Augustown around Sizzler the other day, and when I around the people and asking what is the major reason why you people shooting each other like this, and it was about girls. I was shocked to hear that dispute over women was such a high incidence, right? So I'm not diluting the question about the police behavior, but I am there considering, as you're speaking, how much of their behavior, because they themselves become desensitized, and their perception of, why are they killing these particular 200 people that they killed? Were they robbing somebody? Were they involved in crime, or what is the encounter? Are they going in there to resolve domestic disputes amongst the people? Why are they killing them? I'm curious about that part of the statistic. I want to understand these 200 people that they're killing. What were they involved in?
Very, very important
Can
question.
I respond? Can I
Very,
respond,
very
please?
important question, Maxine.
One
Because
second, last.
what I see, just let me finish this point, Patrick. What I see, what you're raising is the irony in what the police are saying and the government are saying, because they're saying that there is a lack of proper dispute resolution skills within the communities that is affecting the rise in murders and conflicts generally. But what we are seeing also is that within the ranks of the police, they're also showing the same signs that they're trying to tell the people to step away from. They're trying to tell the people find better resolution skills, apply better resolution skills, and we'll see a drop in the murder rate. Yet still, when they go into the communities, they are not trying to solve problems. They are not trying to bring in people and put them before the courts and show by example that there is a better way other than killing each other. They are amplifying the situation. They are doing the very same thing and sometimes worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is precisely what I'm talking about. Because here's what you got to understand, Maxine, especially because I kind of pick up this from your conversation, right? That what makes it a crime is not who commits the act. What makes it a crime is the act that has been committed, right? So whether it's a police killing somebody or it's, you know, one citizen shooting another, right? It makes no difference. It's still a crime. A crime is a crime is a crime, right? When police go into a community and launch attack and youth in the community and kill them, right? It is not reported in the same way that it is reported when an ordinary civilian kill another civilian, right? Yet it's still, they are both crimes.
I'm not talking about the crime, the crime in that manner. I'm not saying that the police killings are not are not criminal. I'm trying to understand where the crime originate. Meaning to say,
The
these
cause, the
the,
cause of it.
the 200 killings by the police versus the 4,000 or how much thousand killing by the people. Are the police pursuing these 200 people that get killed by the police? Were they in acts of crimes, like they were
Are you speaking of something
robbery?
specifically?
Huh?
Are you speaking of something specifically?
No, the statistic that said that there were
And
200.
that's what I'm saying to you, that when it comes to the statistics, the way in which they report the statistics itself is misleading,
Oh,
right? Because they don't report statistics, right, in a way that people understand clearly what's taking place,
yes.
right? Some things they report, some things they just don't report.
Like,
right?
for example, if they
Based
were
on
going
based
after
on
the
based on
scammers,
what they want you to know.
if they're going after scammers or people who thief in light, or where are the areas that these killings are occurring? Are they in the inner city, laying them, you know,
Most of them is in
100
the
lane and this lane and that lane? Where are these
these kill,
200?
most of the
The
killings
only way
happen in the
the only
ghetto.
way for you to know, right, if you're not witnessing it, is based on the report. And if the report is inaccurate, then it means that it's something that you cannot rely on. That's really what it comes down to.
Hmm.
I tell you what, Maxine, I think what you could do while we're on break is to send that request through Jam. Remember, we all can request through Jam.
What is jam?
From
What is jam?
any
What is jam?
J- Jam is you. Oh man, she was on the other day.
Yeah,
I,
it's
Put
I'll
put
tell
it.
you in a minute. She was on the other day, but she tracks and traces all the politicians and
Can you
other
look? Can,
high-ranking people.
Herb? Can you locate it and share it with us? Since you know the source, can you do that?
Anybody can just put it in Google, and once it
Okay.
come up, you go
the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal.
the portal. Yeah,
It's like it's like integrity action.
But,
It's like what Trevor used to do.
but does it track police killing?
Yes, it does that too.
Okay. All right. So we should
It
look at it
tracks
because
corruption and accountability for different
that's
aspects of people.
so what are they
proven
showing?
financial.
What are they showing for police killings in 2024?
I just posted 180. But
180
yeah,
police killing.
but
And for
I'm
last
sure
year,
since that time, I know there have been more killings.
yeah, but what was the previous year for 2023?
I forgot to look it up. Hold on.
180. And they talk about crime.
Yeah,
These
and
guys,
Jump was the one that clarified that it wasn't 1.5 trillion missing or unaccounted for. It was 3 trillion. So that's
uh,
Jump.
about
They're
the
the
police
ones that.
killing, what was it for Herb?
Hold
What
on,
was the police killing for 2023? It must be less, because Amnesty International is predicting that the level will reach 200 by the end of this year. And I think the murder rate is what, 1.2?
But here's the thing, Mike. Here's the thing
Yeah.
that you gotta consider. You gotta consider the source of these reports. How do they get the reporting? In some cases, right? In some cases, they get them from associated organizations,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or associated news agencies, right? In some cases, they're getting it from the police. Some
Hmm.
cases, they're getting it from some government body, right?
Herb,
So information comes in various ways.
yeah, but Herb, can you tell us where to get the information from?
They're gonna get it from. There's only two people put out stats that I know of that keeps account. It's the police themselves,
Right.
and the other one is what's that
Indigo,
information service that Jamaica has?
GIS
No, not JIS. It's the one that does the statistics.
for the
statin,
police.
no,
Oh,
statin.
statin.
Statin,
That is
Statin, yeah. Those are the
But
two.
but nothing is showing for 2023, right?
No. Let me say this. The problem you're gonna have, and we looked into this before, the police does not report all killings. Some killings,
Exactly.
they say that they're waiting to get confirmation that it was actually a murder or it was a suicide,
No,
right?
I'm talking about police killings, Herb. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about no other killing but police killings. My interest is that. Was it at
For
less
police
than
killing.
we are at this year? This year it's
They,
180.
they only,
Last
yeah,
year,
it's 180 was the count.
But
yeah.
here's the thing again, Herb. Right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to say that you're looking at two areas. But it's not just those two areas that the report comes from, because those two areas get their information from somewhere. They're not in the community. They don't have units set up in the various communities. Right? So
Well,
it
It's
still
going
is
to the
gonna
let's not
come down.
talk.
police, the police
It
and
still
the
is gonna come.
coroner's office. The
Huh?
coroner's office is the other source.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That the information comes from various sources, right? And then it is compiled and put out by a particular department or agency.
So is it
One
the
that
politicians that are sending the police into maintain control of their constituencies?
The next available associate. The police is not organized based on constituency, Maxine.
No.
What happens is that you have a police department that runs nationally. And
Janet,
they have to have
thank you, Kurt.
policies in place where when police go out, right, and to do their job, they must come in with a report on the job that they do. That's where the statistics come from. That's where the police statistics come from. It is from that structure,
All
right?
right. The
So when you say you're
By
Amnesty,
the
getting it,
way,
when you
by
say
the
you're getting
way,
it from
Amnesty,
a police source,
Amnesty
that's the police source you're
International.
getting it from.
hold up. Maxine, you were saying?
I'm saying that Amnesty International, that has been studying these police killings, is coming up. All right, let's say the London-based group said just 2 Jamaican officers have been convicted of murder since 2000, while roughly, this was a 2016 report, while roughly 3,000 citizens were killed in police-related fatalities during that time.
Exactly.
It's been such a long-standing pattern of killings that Amnesty suggests there could be state-sponsored executions in the gritty slums where the deadly shootings generally take place. Information gathered for this report points to a strong likelihood of the existence of individual police officers or even units tasked with carrying out extrajudicial executions on the orders of some governmental authorities or with its complicity or acquiescence. Local rights activists have made the same allegation for years, and residents of poor neighborhoods routinely protest what they insist are unjustified killings by lawmen, accusing them of planting pistols next to dead bodies and letting wounded victims bleed to death. Almost all of those kills have been written off by police officers as armed criminals who died in shootouts. So that's why I was
So that
asking.
yes, so that tells you that clearly tells you where the information comes from. That information comes from
Okay, so it's a animal in itself. That's why I was asking, who are these fatalities that the police are killing and how it relates to the other people who are just killing each other for disputes, etc., etc. So the police killing is a separate um is a separate input of violence in the society, separate and apart what the people doing to themselves. That's basically what
Yeah.
we're speaking about. Okay, I'm trying to understand
Okay.
that.
I,
Yeah.
ho- I hope we all understand that this is a major problem in Jamaica. Folks, we are just what 8 minutes away from the hour.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. This one is saying 11 on my side, 10. But we can go around and give some final thoughts as to this year and what the future look like for you and what you think the Jamaican people should be looking at. Let me start with Patrick. Patrick. Patrick, unmute. Yeah, Patrick.
Looks like him even hearing you.
I think he's
No.
frozen.
All
He's
right. Well,
frozen.
one of you.
Oh,
One
no,
of you
see,
go. Go
Okay,
ahead, man.
let me say this quickly. In 2023, there were 108 reports of fatalities involving the security forces in Jamaica. That's what you were asking me earlier, Michael.
Yeah, go
All right.
ahead.
And INDECOM investigated several of these cases, including instances of alleged extrajudicial killings. The number of fatalities involving security forces increased compared to previous years. They're saying here it's a concerning issue, and efforts to improve policing practices and accountabilities have been instituted. Think about this: from 2023 to 2024, it has gone from 108 to currently in 2024, we have a count of 180 and still counting because the year is not out yet. So that's at least 72 more dead people the police have killed in extrajudicial killings for this year, Michael. Right? So keep that in mind. Um, we somebody asked a question earlier at the start of our they say, is there a link between homicide and extrajudicial act? The killing, if it's extrajudicial, is an homicide, but it has to be investigated by the police and labeled an homicide and labeled, well, the homicide would be labeled by the what's that there, the coroner's office, the coroner's inquest. They would have to term it a homicide because they have the final word, right? The police can call it that, but the coroner gives the final stigmatizing of the killing. The who else? Somebody else had another question. Master Jam. Herb, how come Jam not asked the IC to publish the overseas forensic audit report? That's the Kroll report that should have been, that was turned in November of last year. That's a report about the SSL and the Minister of Finance activities, as well as the Prime Minister's activities in conjunction with SSL. And it's unfortunate that nobody is pressing these ministers in opposition or otherwise to get this report out there, because the report is long overdue. This is over a year ago they turned the report in, and this is not the damn investigative report by the IC of the ministers. This is a report talking about how did Jamaican Americans or Americans with investments at SSL, how did they lose their money, right? Who rip off their money? If you can figure out how much money the Prime Minister lost, how much loans he got from SSL, you can tell us where did all this other money reportedly lost, where did it go, right? And so that's something that's still pending, unfortunately, Master Jam. So I cannot tell you that answer right now till somebody demands or take it to court and get the information released.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. We
All
have
right.
a
Thank you for
license
that, sir.
pending. What you say,
All right.
Mike?
Thank you. I'm saying thank you, man. Last, your turn. What are you looking at for the new year? Can you unmute? Unmute, man, last.
I'm hoping that, you know, in the coming year, we see a change in the demands of the Jamaican people, because I believe that one of the things that is causing a continuation of this corruption, the lack of movement and finding strategies for crime, the lack of movement in addressing the health sector issues, is that the Jamaican people seem to be making no demands, no serious demands on their politicians, whether they are GLP politicians or PNP politicians. And what we have is a continuation of people being elected, sitting in them office and doing very little. And it is my belief that if the Jamaican people become more vocal, more active, make more demands on these elected officials, more things can happen and better can come to Jamaica.
But what about their fear? What about their fear? The fear that the
Fear of
Jamaican
what?
people,
What is
bro,
them fear, Mikey?
bro God and all of that, the gangster government, the way
Virgin,
all the way allness operate now, every man will tell you, bro God. You know?
if you're gonna fear somebody so much
No, I'm
that
not
you
saying you,
can,
I'm not saying
no,
you, I'm
no,
saying
no, I'm talking
reality
the
in terms of
Jamaican
Jamaica.
public.
Okay.
If the Jamaican public go and fear somebody so much that them can get him out, I mean, the future is very dull for our country.
I think they will get him out, you know. Most Jamaican right now resign to the fact say allness corrupt. GLP
But
government
it
corrupt.
can be a situation where people just sit down and take it, say, one day the wind
No, I
is
don't
going to change.
no, I don't
It's
think
going
that.
to
I think
and blow in the next direction, and I think there's
if
too much of that right
if we
now.
look if we look at the result from the previous elections, I think Jamaican right now get to the point where they are saying to themselves, this man has to go, Holness has to go.
That's what you
I
see
think
from the
that's
elections.
that's I think the Jamaican people are at. Given the level of information shared about this man, people are at the point where listen, Holness must go. They can't live it no longer. But yeah, you finish, brother. I shouldn't sorry for interrupt you. You
If
finish?
no, you see, the problem with me is that, as I say, I'm surprised that Wholeness has been able and the JLP to hold on to power to this point in time, considering the amount of scandals, the amount of corruption, the disarray in the health sector, the disarray in education in Jamaica. I think it's time that the people start speaking out more, organizing themselves more, you know, to try create a change in 2025.
Okay. John, John, what's your take? What you anticipate in 2025? Patrick, what you
Yeah, I'm
expect?
here.
What you anticipate in 2025?
I can only say what I hope for. I can't say what I anticipate because when it comes to anticipation, there's not much to be desired from what I anticipate. But
Okay.
certainly, what I hope for is that people become more engaged. And by becoming more engaged, what that means is, right, that they become more involved in making their voices heard, become more involved in discussions, right? discussions of this nature, for example, even at a community level. And by so doing, understand that the only thing that moves us forward is for us to have a better and clearer understanding of the situation. That's the only thing that moves us forward, because that is what is going to initiate our action. Right? Our action is going to follow our understanding of what's taking place and what we see as our role in taking steps to make changes. So in other words, if people continue to be dormant about being involved, dormant about being aware of what's happening politically and happening on the ground in their community and so on, right? Then it's not gonna spur them to take action. Right? So what I'm hoping for is to see people become more engaged. Because the more engaged people are, is the more you'll see people turn out at the polls. Right? The more engaged people are, is the more they'll engage their politicians. Right? The more engaged we are, is what is going to lead to change ultimately. And the change that we desire.
Maxine?
Well, judging from the parties that are leaving power all over the world, it would seem that any party that is in power presently that is going to have an election is not voted back in.
Oh,
So if you look at the world,
that's you're looking at a
Then
crystal ball.
not crystal ball, I'm looking at what the ball that just rolled down
trend.
2024. Every
Okay.
government in the world, every country has gone through major political changes this year. Like they're not, they're just coming out of power. Germany, France, whatever it is, they're all coming out of power. It's like it's a season. So I would think that the people should be planning for the political change, but also what this political change should be focused on. The new people coming in, say the PNP, like what are they, what are their policies now? Like you have to get more urgent because the price of food, even here in America, it is so crazy. You understand what is happening in what people are, able to afford to eat. It is at a critical juncture. That is a major reason why everybody voted in for Trump. It was their pocketbook. So to the extent that the pocketbook of Jamaica is reflecting the pocketbook of America, I'm pretty sure they're going to change whoever just for the purpose of change. You know what I'm saying? Just to see if the pocketbook is going to jingle a little better with the change. That's the quality of decision making that people are making. Like, we just got to change this to see if we can get a couple more dimes in our pocket. Because to keep the same thing there, it just doesn't seem practical. So I'm hopeful that a change will occur that will put a little bit more jingling in people's pocket to go on with this price of food, basic items for the majority of people, and that people will be more generous. The people that are making money will be more, more socially responsible in terms of not just protecting their wealth, but really stop using the government as a shield, and really look into how much money they're making, or some group that looks at all these not-for-profit organizations that say that they're doing XYZ for Jamaica, to find out if it is just a promotional stint or how much of these profits that are being made are being given back through what they call corporate social responsibility, and how they're targeted. Just more kind of management of the economic system. And that programs like ours will encourage people to look at those levels, because even with Trump coming in and this immigration, we're talking about police and violence. The amount of people that I know that left certain communities in Jamaica through some scheme to reach America, if they are in the group that Trump is
Deportation.
focused on for deportation, Jamaica is going to have a big, big problem next year. Anyhow, what his name? Trump get away with his immigration plan that he's planning. The amount of people that I personally know signed on and spent their money to buy them ticket through Mexico and is here now through whatever scheme. You understand? It's going to be very interesting how that is going to be managed as per the deportations that were happening, 1 and 2 plane coming in ever so often. I think there will be a lot of flights coming into Jamaica based on this Trump scenario with immigration. So, yes, so it will be an interesting year between America and Jamaica. And I'm looking at the price of food and the availability of food with all these hurricane and climate change, and we have to be prepared to be very resilient in the upcoming year.
John?
John
Yes,
Hyde.
John.
Disappear
Well,
again.
well, I'm of the view that once you hit rock bottom, your only option is to hope. Hope. I have seen some guys and some girls on TikTok bleach out and them identify themselves as dons. And we are told that these are influencers. Well, if that is the direction Jamaica is going, I don't want to be a party to that. I really hope that the Jamaican people will stand up to this sort of influence. I'm not sure how many of you have gone on to TikTok and see what I'm talking about. But it's all about bleaching, cascas, and death. We heard about Naya and Bossed, two, two, two victims of the TikTok saga. I certainly don't want to go in that direction. I am hopeful that Jamaican people will rise and stand up, because they have done it for a number of years now. Since 1938, our people been standing up against injustice and wrongs. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. 2025, a change of government. A change of government. So some of us can return home. As long as there's a GLP government in place, a lot of us not going to return to Jamaica. So I definitely hoping for a change in the government. That's where I stand. I'm also hoping that this platform that we have will grow, expand to include much more participation from the Jamaican people. Yes, we know there are some changes that we have to make, but while we're making the changes, let us recognize our achievement. We have 2,400 subscribers, and we are now what? We are doing pretty well. There's some things that we need to do And in the new year, we will definitely implement it. The phone line is one thing that we definitely going to move because we want this platform to be interactive, listening to the Jamaican people and how we can help them. So on that note, I want to thank each and every one of you for the contribution, the participation, making this platform what it is. Without you, we would have a platform. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you. I also want to thank the listeners. You know, the listeners, they are a group of loyal listeners. Every Sunday, they are with us, and I don't know if I can get their name just now, but I want to say, big them up. Dawn, Sister Dawn. Dawn is a regular listener. I want to say Carol, Yell Up. Cuba One, Yell Up. And Johnny Johnson. I want to heal you up, Bridging. Thank you for the contribution. Johnny Johnson. Okay, Don. Yes. And of course, Herbert Nelson is all over the place. What I want to thank everyone, like my brother. This week, we're going to take a break. The pro will take a break, and we're going to return on the 19th, right, Herb? We're going to
Yes.
return on the 19th. So next Sunday, you're not going to
Next
hear from.
Next two
Sunday.
And the
Sundays.
following Sunday, you're not going to hear from. Next 2 Sundays. But we're going to send you something. Going to text you a little information for you to remind yourself when we're coming back. So until that time, what I'm saying, Jamaica, walk good. All right,
And have a
brethren,
happy new
sister,
year when it comes.
thank you. And before we leave, I must tell you that they just announced President Carter died today. He was at 100 years of age. So that's something that's gonna dominate the news for the next couple of weeks. President Carter died today at age 99. Good man, good. What at age 100? 100. Sorry about that. Good man, good soul, and did a lot of good around the world. Hopefully Trump will celebrate him and what have you. So, brethren and sister, until such time, go take care of yourself and don't do anything that I would not do. And that's not a lot. All right? So,
Bless.
Take care. Bless up.
Yeah,
Sister.
Matthew.
Yes, yes.
Bless.